Mr. Wilson, two people wanted to talk about your report. First, Mr. Zuckerman from the Central Delta Water Agency, then Mr. Burt Wilson. Mr. Zuckerman. Tom, we haven't checked that mic. Tap it to see if it's actually working, if you would, please. It is. Thank you very much.
Magical. I am Tom Zuckerman. I'm here representing the Central Delta Water Agency. And my comments are related to the second part of Mr. Wilson's report, not to the report on the gates and the barriers. And I want to second the comments that both the chair and vice chair made about the demonstration of how delicate the water supply situation is. If here we are in the first of a year of what historically has been considered to be dry year cycles that last as long as 7 to 10 years and so forth, and we're already in deep trouble with the temperature control requirements on the Sacramento River. What's going to happen next year or the year after if we continue to have dry conditions? And this gives rise to concerns that we have, is that Mr. Wilson said that a plan has been submitted. I'm not sure we've seen it. When was the plan presented?
The plan was required to be sent to the Water Board and myself by June 4th, and I believe it was filed on that date. It's on the board's website. If you go to the home page and just click on the link dealing with the Bay Delta program, you'll get to a screen that says announcements, and it'll have my letter, the original request from the project people, and a copy of the temperature control plan.
Okay, well, I apologize for that. I've been gone. Mr. Nomalini's been handling the communications with you. When I talked to him this morning, I don't think he was aware of it, so we'll try to correct that. One of the things that is curious here is that we went through a very long water quality control planning process many years ago to try to establish what kind of water quality conditions are necessary to protect beneficial uses of water for agriculture and other uses in the Delta. And a series of standards were developed, some of which are in the Western Delta. Those conditions in the Western Delta, incidentally, are not really controlled by inflow to the Delta. They're controlled by outflow from the Delta. It's the outflow from the Delta that determines how much of the saltwater gradient is going to come back up into the Delta. When I reviewed the documents that were available when I got back from my trip, I never saw any reference in any of those documents to exports. It was all related to inflow to the Delta. And of course, outflow from the Delta is not controlled only by inflow. It's controlled as well by water that's used upstream from the Delta and exported from the Delta. So I'm hopeful that the plan that you referenced does deal with whatever your operational plans are as they affect exports from the Delta as well as uses upstream from the Delta. And you're nodding as if it does. I look forward to reading that.
Yeah, I mean, we had a serious, concern that these, releases and if we were reducing the amount of the releases and we were conserving water upstream, that water was going to be used, for meeting these upstream objectives for protection of the salmon, and it wouldn't be used for other purposes. And so we will continue to monitor the operations of the major projects, and if we see that there's any issues there, we would certainly revisit what we did.
Well, that's good for my purpose. I encourage you to talk to us early and often on these subjects when they come up. There wasn't much discussion this time, as you know, in advance. We read your letter to the agencies as saying that you were going to defer enforcement of the water quality standards as really a change in the standards. I mean, what's the good of having water quality standards developed for the operation if in advance of any hearing or anything else, the agency that's responsible for enforcing them says, well, you can go ahead and violate them because we're not going to enforce them this year. We don't think that's the right way to run the railroad, and we look forward to sharpening up the communications and the legal responses in the future. We understand the problem. We're not saying there is no problem. We're not saying that, as we did in 1976 and 77, and we did later in the 1990 and 91, the Delta is not willing to cooperate with the regulatory authorities to try to find solutions to these issues. But we just need to be in the discussion, in the communication loop. Thank you.